Welcome to fair Bretonnia. I'm Dark Plays, and today I'm here with Repanse and Henri le Massif, her unique paladin hero that comes only with her faction. You can see he has a hippogriff mount, anti-large AP, pretty strong combatant overall, not the best stats, but 85 charge, decent armor, and 100 speed. We've got a unit of Royal Hippogriff Knights for his retinue. We're going to be taking a little bit more of an in-depth look today at Repanse. I've got a few replays to show you of the lady herself here, the maid, if you will. Again, 20 bonus versus infantry, 65 charge, 50 attack, 60 defense. Keep in mind, this balancing is not final, so some of these things may change for release, but Repanse herself seems to be in a pretty good place, if you ask me. She has great armor-piercing weapon strength, especially with this Sword of Leoness active. The Halo of Maidenly Wrath as well, that blinded effect means she's great at potentially dueling and can also use it to kind of bust up flops as well. Then of course Fleur de Lis banner as we've seen, +9/+9 AoE is going to be very strong for quite a few different units, including the Companions of Quenelle in particular. They already have 50 attack, 45 defense, which is obviously quite strong for a unit of cavalry, so they're going to be punching, you know, 50, almost 60 attack, 50 plus defense with that constant active, so that's quite good. A couple of Peasant Bowmen and a Trebuchet. Got a Grail Relic out to the flank there. We're going to bring that in the center shortly. A couple Battle Pilgrims with Holy Wardens of La Maison Tal. The magic damage is going to be key against some of the new Clan Eshin units. That is who we are fighting. Italian Spartacus himself going to be leading the way there. Got some Spearmen at Arms healed here, Damsel Lore of Life, and some Meat Shield mobs up front. As for the rest, the Ninja Rats, of course, going to be led by the Deathmaster. He's also got Lore of Stealth caster. Looks like Globadier, two Death Mortars, that is. One of them is going to be the AP ROR. The other one will be simply the damage over time effect. I still need to get this Poisoned Wind. I'm planning on doing some testing with that effect to really see, what the damage is comparable to, but we've also got plenty of Triads and Death Runners as well, so relatively small model count wide infantry, but they do have some chaff up front to give them a few unit models here, relatively small scale Skaven army still, and not a lot of mass either to stop up heavy cavalry, which is one of the things about playing these Eshin-themed builds. You guys are going to see a lot of replays over the next little while of Clan Eshin getting owned a little bit, but that's mostly because people are trying to take Eshin-themed builds. The Eshin units are more or less support units, like the Death Runners here and the Eshin Triads. I don't know that taking a bunch of them in a big, like a bunch of them in an army like this is too good, because again, you're going to run low on model count. Although if you have summons, it's not so much of an issue, but you can see there, peasants fulfilling their duty, getting absolutely wrecked by those Death Globe mortars. Oh yeah, great job, guys, great job, excellent work. They are doing exactly what they should. Meanwhile, the Trebuchet is returning fire. I don't think we've picked off one model so far from that Death Globe mortar, so good stuff. We're going to, just kind of hold the hill position here, force the Skaven out of position. You can see the Death Globe mortars. One of their downsides is only 250 range compared to most traditional artillery. I mean, Trebuchet is, of course, quite long range at 440. But we can see the clash of champions in the front line here. Skaven slaves fighting uphill against some peasants. Yeah, let's see. Who's winning? Should be relatively even, actually. Peasant mobs might be slightly winning out there due to their higher melee attack, but we'll see. You can see the mortars now flying in, doing some great damage on those archers, and the Battle Pilgrims especially, a nice high-value target. But I wanted to showcase this because these... I'm going to keep the health pools on so you guys can see how much damage these guys take from one charge here. Because they have such low model count, they just get absolutely gibbed by these Hippogriff Knights and Henri le Massif, or Henri. Yeah, definitely loving him so far. Pretty good character in general, he's pretty cheap. I don't know that he'll be available with unit caps yet for sure. In the current build I have, he's not, although I'm certainly campaigning for him to be, because I think he'd be reasonably well balanced. But yeah, you can see the mortars firing in there, getting some really good work. The Grail Relic, a little bit out of position, not able to support the leadership in the front line, but that's okay. We're going to move these Holy Wardens with their magic attacks down to get on those Death Runners. And the Maid herself going to go ahead and get out here. We've got some peasant mobs tying down the ROR Death Runners, and they're going to get a great charge just sandwiching them in here. We're going to throw down Shield of Thorns for physical resistance. so that we don't take too much damage in return. And yeah, those questing knights, once Repanse is in melee, yeah, 59, 54 melee defense, just so strong in general. So good stuff. My infantry getting pretty well wrecked, as you can see. Those mortars, despite the fact I'm doing some damage with my trebuchet, they are still firing, getting some good damage in. Meanwhile, Henri and the battle pilgrims just rushing through, pushing the Skaven downhill. Oh yeah. And Henri is quite large. You can see here the Skaven raining in some friendly fire shots with those Deathglow mortars. They'll do some pretty decent damage, but yeah, this heavy assault is a little bit more than what these Triads can stand up to. They're just not really meant, especially the magic damage from the Holy Wardens. Holy Warden's going to be very good against Triads in particular. Death Runners, because of the anti-infantry, they're still not going to trade cost effectively into the Holy Wardens, but, you know, they'll do a little better. Certainly the Triads, the Holy Wardens, are a hard counter to, so expect to see them more often in this matchup. I mean, they were already pretty good in this matchup against the Skaven, but against Death Runners and Triads in general, having magic damage is pretty essential. You can see here mortars firing in, and yeah, Henri and Hippogriff Knights. Hippogriff Knights just ate a regrowth there. We're going to throw Overcast regrowth. I probably should have waited a little bit until the Hippogriffs were on station to get that, but that's okay. Just come in here and again try and pick off these isolated units. The rats here with no ogres or anything to keep me bogged down and pinned on the ground. I can just kind of have my will, more or less, and just absolutely alpha strike these guys. You can see Deathmaster Snitch is getting in here. It looks like he's used his debuffs. Brittle Bone as well, the debuff reducing Henri's melee defense down to 0. Unfortunately, Deathmaster's just getting heavily staggered here and can't really get too many good hits. Repanse also charging in at this point. Looks like she might eat a magic missile from that Eshin sorcerer there, but doesn't do too much. Keep in mind, though, Deathmaster's still a very scary character. It looks like Repanse actually ate that Brittle Bone. It looks like that was AoE Brittle Bone, which is quite strong. That area of effect, minus 40 melee defense, is going to be pretty good. Eshin Triads were able to get a little bit of damage in that meantime, and you can see I have to pull out of that. Because of that, the Hippogriffs get out, and yeah, that's going to leave me a little bit exposed here. You can see I did pop the Sword of Leoness here to try and get the Deathmaster. Unfortunately, he is getting some good hits kind of rolling in and out of this combat, so I'm not really able to get hits on him directly. I'm going to throw a regrowth on the damsel in distress, though. Not really a damsel, more of a maid, if you will. But, yeah, Repanse going to go ahead and eat that regrowth, and that will trigger army losses. So, nice response to the Deathmaster after that last successful contract completion against the Chevaliers there. This time, Henri able to swoop in and save the day, and will be enough to turn back the tide there. So, yeah, definitely loving Henri and Repanse both. Pretty decent options as well. Again, I love the color scheme for Chevaliers. Also, still think you're going to see Lewin or Fey Enchantress, potentially even Alberic in a couple of matchups, but having Repanse as kind of a ground hero, and that +9/+9 especially, just so strong for any Bretonnian cavalry pretty much in general. So I've got a few more replays to get through, so let's go on to the next one. And here we are. I don't know what that accent was, I apologize. We're here now in the desert. Repanse going to be taking her force against the Ever-Chosen, who's come down to the desert to find some sort of artifact of power. So we've got her, Felix again, running Damsel Lore Beast, similar-ish to what I ran against the Skaven last time, but we've got 3 Knights of the Realm this time, 3 Knights Errant, and then the 2 Questing Knights with Repanse. And then, yeah, lots of peasants scattered around, just 1 Spearmen at arms with shields. They've got a few chevrons as well, up to 41 melee defense, along with Felix, so they can kind of help hold up a little bit of a blob if possible. As for ARCHAON's force, the Ever-Chosen himself going to be leading the way. He's got Summoners of Rage here. It looks like Chaos Poison Warhounds, 4 units of Halberds, and 4 units of Marauders as well. I was kind of kicking myself for not bringing at least a couple Foot Squires, just because Foot Squires trade really cost effectively with these warriors with halberds, but still, we've got plenty of cavalry. I should be able to get good rear charges. You can see, speaking of charges, that peasant mob there gets singled out and just taken out, no problem, which is fine by me. You can see I'm kind of swooping in with these Knights Errant, maneuvering around, feinting a little bit here and there. That fireball is going to come through and blast one of them. It's not the best, but hey, it's all good. This Marauder's a bit exposed, though, so here come the Questing Knights. Beautiful charge. Get in here and start to just absolutely destroy those Marauders. Quick hit and run. We're going to pull away, start to bait some of these guys into an unfavorable situation. You can see my Knights of the Realm just kind of chilling over on this side. I'm fine for these Marauder Horsemen to eat those javelins. We're going to go ahead and summon a Manticore here, because I'm trying to make a pretty concerted push to try and break a number of units here. You can see we charge straight into the halberds, because they only have 38 melee defense. Once Repanse gets in there, they will get their stats quite a bit buffed. Will the Questing Knights, and you can see now, yeah, 59, 54 again. Those warriors with halberds just get absolutely wrecked before they can really get too much damage back. Manticore drops down for some terror, and we get a quick terror rout on a few units, able to kind of follow up with some routing peasants there. Unfortunately here, I do get my Knights Errant Defenders of the Fleur-de-Lis charged by some Summoners of Rage, which is not the best, but we're going to see if we can't catch ARCHAON in an isolated engagement over on the far side here. You can see I'm actually a little bit ahead on the balance power. My game actually crashed on this replay, so I had to have HDS send it to me, so big thanks to him, which is why you'll see Spanish names for the factions at the end. But anyway, notwithstanding, you can see I've got all my knights kind of here, ready to isolate some of these high-value targets, so we're going to try and do that. Unfortunately, there is one group of Chaos Halberds that can kind of support here, but try and charge into this front line a little bit with these Knights of the Realm, to be honest. Probably should have turned over here and followed up and tried to chase some of these routing units. I also summon a Manticore here to try and drop down and do some damage to these Summoners of Rage. And here comes Repanse. I used that blinded effect a little bit early. It does look like it actually got ARCHAON. His stats are significantly debuffed here. And Repanse herself gets in there. Ooh, on a righteous strike on ARCHAON, and he takes a huge hit right there. He also has Slayer of Kings active, so he should be able to get some good hits back, but right now, Repanse just getting the better of him in this massive Bretonnian cavalry here. Very nicely done by HDS, though. He's going to throw a very nice, what is that, Chain Lightning? Force me to kind of disengage there. It is going to roll back around and probably do some damage to his Chaos Warriors, but that's fine. You know, fine for Bretonnia, that is. You can see Bounce Power has stabilized somewhat, though, as a lot of those routing units did come back, and my Knights of the Realm, again, left them in that frontline engagement a little bit too long, took quite a bit of damage from those halberds, and now finally disengaged here to try and come support this engagement. Although, again, earlier, if I had come, you see, these three units all came back from route, so I could have potentially had those guys cleaned up there, but instead we're just going to continue to commit to this fight right here. These Summoners of Rage, I'm really trying to terrify them away at this point, but unfortunately their leadership is holding out quite well. Another Flock of Doom here, and a rear charge from some Marauder Horsemasters does mean that my Knights of the Realm are actually going to get routed here, as does the Manticores, so not the best situation for me. That being said, the Lore of Beastcaster comes in here, Repanse as well, still juicing up everyone's stats. The Questing Knights are getting pretty low on models, though, and of course, without any healing, I don't really have any way of replenishing them, of course. Knights Errant going to come in here, get a good charge on these Marauder Horsemen, hopefully try and help rout some of these chaff units off. If I can get rid of some of these Marauder Horsemen and single out ARCHAON and snipe him, then we can potentially just charge these two units of halberds out in the late game. Felix trying to follow up to get in here to start to do some anti-infantry work, but you can see Summoners of Rage here do actually rout, and I'm going to go ahead and pull away with my cavalry now and try and, you know, re-engage, see if we can't rout off, again, these horsemen and the horse masters. Big pain at this point. But yeah, another Flock of Doom there. I'm going to hit a few of these different units, and unfortunately that peasant mob, which was hoping to support Felix, did get routed, but Felix is just about to get into the back of these warriors with halberds here, and finally the horsemen have just about been dealt with, and Repanse as well. Going to get another engagement up against ARCHAON here, at least trying to, at the very least. Maybe not. Maybe it looks like she's targeted on someone else. But yeah, if I can get her on ARCHAON directly, she's got that sword and everything back off of cooldown, so she can come in and try and snipe out ARCHAON and finish things off here. Things are looking pretty good, but I do have quite a bit of scattered forces here that I'm trying to rally, and yeah, I'm also making a few mistakes again in not chasing these routing units. I really am just kind of over-committing to this blob and trying to break these different units. But if I were to just peel off and try and kind of chase some of these various routing units, I do think I probably would have been able to clean up here, but we'll see. Things are still very close, and Repanse does get in here. Is she? Yeah. Yep. In here somewhere, it looks like the damsel actually try to fight ARCHAON right now. That's a little bold, but here comes Repanse, finally pulling through a few halberds. Hopefully we'll be able to get in here and get a rear charge. He gets that blast effect, which does apply the blind, of course, as well. ARCHAON down to 36 melee defense. He does himself with the Cascading Fire Cloak to respond. That Sword of Leonesso up to 99 melee attack. You can see ARCHAON takes a few huge hits here. I do get a little bit of bad RNG and get a couple of misses here, just barely. But, yeah. Unfortunately, with that, I'm actually going to need to pull away there as most of my units are routed. I could stand and fight next to Felix, I suppose, and it probably would have been better to do so, but I'm going to disengage and try and come after these Marauders here. Ultimately, this was probably a bit of a mistake. I don't know, maybe if I would have stayed and fought with her next to Felix, obviously, because I would have been getting that healing. Felix also has the helping hands that I didn't use at all that entire game, so a little bit rough there. You can see Felix gets routed off, and that finally puts the balance of power in the Warriors of Chaos' favor. I'm going to go ahead and admit defeat there, but the game crashed, rather. But yeah, HDS, the Guerreros del Chaos, which is awesome, and Caballeros de Leones, which is also a fantastic name. Love those names in Spanish. Ends up taking home the win there. Again, a couple of key mistakes by me. Even in the late game there, I think maybe if I would have just kept Repanse fighting ARCHAON, just fighting in that blob even, and helping, support Felix, helping to keep his leadership up, and also to get that healing on her as well, maybe I could have pulled out a win there at the end. Still, though, a very good game with HDS. Very well played to him. Some excellent work with his spells placement there, especially with the Summoners of Rage. And that one Halberd just in the right position at the right time ended up supporting a very clutch engagement there. So yeah, for myself, again, not chasing off the routing units, I think was a little bit of a mistake. A pretty big mistake, actually. And then even there at the end, maybe should have stood and fought with Repanse. But, you live and learn, trying out new things and new builds. Definitely think that Repanse is going to be pretty solid against Warriors of Chaos. I'd be curious to see, up against the Shaggoth, I think she could potentially be a little bit squishy, but just in general, having her anchor that big blob of high stats Knights is going to be very strong in a number of different matchups. So, hopefully you guys enjoyed this one. I've got one more to show you guys, so let's get to it. And here we are, Repanse going to be leading her force once more, this time in Bloodpine Woods up against the Beastmen. So, HDS going to be taking the reins this time. He's got Repanse on horseback, of course, Henri Le Massif up in the air, and a whole bunch of Knights in Lance formation. We've got Knights Errant, a few units of them. We've got Defenders of the Fleur-de-Lis as well as Knights of the Lion-Hearted. So, pretty good stuff. Looks like plenty of infantry as well, some polearms. Looks like some men-at-arms as well. And for myself, taking the Beastmen, I've got Kazarak, the One-Eye. Got some Razorgore herds here, some Poison Warhounds and Centaurs with great weapons. Spearmen, just general Beastmen chaff, a Brave Shaman Lore of Shadows. I was hoping to try out the new Occam's Mindraiser. They did change up some of the valuations for some of the melee attack and defense buffs, and also the weapon strength buffs you guys will see throughout these replays. I'll talk more about that probably on another day, but we do get a charge over here, a bit of an engagement with these Knights Errant. They have the support of some halberds, though, and some men-at-arms, so actually going to be doing quite well. I'm going to need to disengage there and pull back. These Knights Errant, though, doing less well. Henri is going to get a great rear charge, though, on Kazarak. I'm going to go ahead and pop Kazarak's buffs to try and mitigate that, but yeah, these Knights Errant going to need to back away as this horde of angry beasts is a bit much for them at the moment, but Henri gets a few good hits in on Kazarak. You can see despite the melee defense buff from that Scourge there, he does take quite a bit of damage. We're going to go ahead and countercharge here with the Sons of Goros and the other Centaurs with great weapons, but HDS does a great job rear charging with these Knights Errant here, so a bit of a sandwich engagement, and also looks like an Earthblood on the Bretonnian side to keep everybody nice and healed, so that's good. We're going to get Occam's Mindraiser on Kazarak the One-Eye to try and get him some magic damage. I don't really have any Grail tier units for it to matter a ton on anyway, but he's up to 600 weapon strength regardless with that buff active there. Unfortunately, the Brave Shaman Lore of Shadow is going to pay the price as Repanse comes in here. Because she's such a scary combatant, she just wipes him super fast. That Sword of Leoness up to 660 weapon strength with that active, so very strong stuff. Looks like a regrowth going to be used on the Knights of the Lion-Hearted there, pretty good, as they still have quite a few models left fighting against those Centaurs there. These peasants are going to come screen out quite nicely. Well done with the mobs there. And, Bretonnia already taking a pretty commanding lead on the balance of power. We have managed to win out on a couple of engagements here, but these Blackhorns Ravagers are getting held up a long time by those men-at-arms, which is really cost-inefficient for me. And Henri Le Massif as well. I've been able to do some damage to him, but not enough to actually get through the healing. And he's going to come in now and just absolutely take a steel chair to a bunch of my units. I do have these ROR Bestigor as well, Koroks Man Rippers, so they've been getting in here, getting some good anti-large AP done. 37 kills so far, wiped up quite a few units of cavalry. You can see the Bretonnian cav, defenders of the Fleur-de-Lis pretty much done. Most of the Knights Errant have been finished off for the most part, but these ROR, Knights of the Realm here, Knights of the Lion-Hearted, are still fighting for the time being. Of course, alongside their liege lady here, Repanse, they will fight tooth and nail, of course, with that extra melee stats. And again, on any of the knights in general, that's going to be strong. But particularly for, obviously, the ROR calves, because they are regiments of renown, right? They can't get any higher in terms of chevrons. To have any way of increasing their stats is great in general. And yeah, I'm going to go ahead and pop Kazarak's buff, try and charge him in here to get some damage on Repanse, but I basically do 0 damage, 69 melee defense currently, and she just wrecks Kazarak. Just absolutely, just completely destroys him. Oh, yep, there we go. Maybe, that was going to be the killing blow right there, but looks like the Beastmen actually hit critical army losses, so yeah, very, very fun stuff. We'll talk a little bit more about Henri and all the lads and lasses, of course, Repanse herself, just a moment, but very fun battle, well played to HES and Italian Spartacus, big thanks to them for the battles. Yeah, as for the breakdown here, 122 for the Blackhorns Ravagers, 16 for the Destroyers with Drakwald, pretty much got run over super hard. I mean, 122 for the Blackhorns Ravagers is okay, but and really, my opponent here, HDS, was able to get the key work done with his heroic units. I mean, obviously, Henri doing a ton of damage to Kazarak, and just in general, providing the nice mobile terror unit. Repanse herself just wrecking that Bray Shaman and Kazarak, a super scary combatant. And the fact that she's a horse-sized model kind of gives her a little bit of upside, right? Because all the other Bretonnian lords, I mean, Alberic has anti-large while on horseback, but he doesn't have armor-piercing, right? So it gives you somebody almost more like a ARCHAON or a Tyrion, where you can have them as a small target that's also high damage. Let's just get straight into it. Yeah, the rest of the army, good kills on most of the knights as you would expect. All that fun stuff. 23 on peasant mobs, also not too bad. But yeah, let's just get straight over to it. So if we have a look here, Chevaliers, they can currently take Fey Enchantress in their roster, so you could potentially take the Fey and Henri. I have tried that once. It didn't work super well in the specific matchup I tried it in, but I do want to try it some more. But yeah, Repanse, of course, can take her on foot or on horseback. Her weapon strength is the same regardless. Suleiman is her horse. Very cool. And she gets quite a bit more HP, obviously. 20 more armor, up to 110. Much more charge bonus, and 70 speed as well for a horse-mounted lord. Isn't amazing, but it's pretty good. It's definitely decent. Doesn't have the most AP in the world, but we can come in here and compare her to, say, somebody like ARCHAON, for example. I mean, obviously, ARCHAON is a caster, so he's got that going for him. But certainly in terms of stats, I mean, ARCHAON's obviously, as you would expect, a little bit better, a little bit more HP. Doesn't have access to healing, but yeah. Yeah, I mean, they're very comparable in terms of sort of their use case. Obviously, Repanse is quite a bit cheaper than ARCHAON as well, so she has that going for her. And just in general, that AoE buff that she has, this thing here, Fleur-de-Lis Banner, is so strong, as I mentioned multiple times, for questing knights and various other units. Henri, if you look right now, if I activate unit caps, is currently not available. I'm really hoping CA will change this, because honestly, he's not that overpowered. All things considered, Bretonnia is not the strongest faction in the world, and having another lord who can mount a hippogriff, I mean, granted, it is an anti-large AP hippogriff, but certainly comparable to someone like Alberic. If we come have a look at the regular Bretonnia faction here, we can say Alberic, you know, if we strip both of them down of any of their costs, Henri is going to be a bit cheaper, but, I mean, he is a hero, for one thing. And for the other thing, you have to take him with Chevaliers, right? So you're going to be limited to only a couple of Lord selections. And likewise, you can see Henri, he does have a little bit better melee defense, but less melee attack, less weapon strength, a tiny bit better charge bonus, and less armor on Henri, as well as less health. So all things considered, I think for the cost, he's probably reasonably well balanced. Maybe he could be like 100 points more expensive, but honestly, Bretonnia, like I said, they're not the best faction in the world, and I really don't see how adding this guy to them could imbalance things too much. So hopefully Creative Assembly will include him in the unit caps. But regardless, you know, again, being able to take him really is the main thing that would set apart this faction in multiplayer. But at the very least, Repanse herself, I do think you'll see quite a bit of use case scenarios in just even regular multiplayer against factions like Vampire Coast, potentially. I think Skaven is another really good one as well. Dwarfs I haven't tried, but theoretically she should be very good against the Dwarfs as well. Yeah, I think you're still going to be wanting to go with Lewin against people like Greenskins, Tomb Kings, and Lizardmen, the two hardest matchups for Bretonnia I haven't tried yet. Repanse potentially could be good in those, but certainly against like Skaven, Coast, I think she'll be decent. She could be a good pick against Empire as well, depending on the matchup. Just in general, if you want a cheap Ground Lord that also has great support abilities, Repanse is definitely the one for you, and absolutely can hold her own in melee combat as well. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this Repanse multicast. Definitely going to be bringing you guys more action soon. I've got more Malice, some Malice content, I should say, coming up, hopefully, I'm not sure what day but exactly, but hopefully soon. And then beyond that, I've got plenty of replays utilizing the new Skaven Lord and other units as well, already recorded. Those should be going up in a few days as well. So yeah, just stay tuned. I've got tons of more content is what I'm trying to say. There's tons of content on the way. Just sit tight for more. And yeah, if you do want to see more, be sure to subscribe, obviously. Hit that bell notification so that you'll be notified when I do upload a new video. If you liked this video, found it useful, be sure to like it, share it with your friends. Thank you once again for watching, and we'll see you next time.